Hi, everybody. We'll give just a couple of seconds for those that are still logging in, and we'll get started briefly. All right, we'll get started. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Hi, everyone. My name is Jesus Scutia. I am the program manager for Monterey County Business Council, and I manage the Building Business Back program. Before we get started today, I wanted to welcome our interpreter, Marisela Quesada. Para cambiar en español, haga clic el icono del mundo en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Marisela, if you could please go ahead and introduce yourself. Perfecto, thank you. Now for the topic for today's workshop will be on startup assistance, and we have invited Sharon Mikesell from CalCosta as our speaker. I'll go ahead and let you take it away, Sharon.
All right, thank you, Jesus. Let me share my screen. Okay, good morning and welcome to our training session sponsored by Building Business Back in partnership with the Monterey County Business Council. As I was introduced, I'm Sharon Mikesell, the program manager for CalCoastal SBDC. I'll be the instructor for this training program. On the Zoom etiquette, please put your questions in the Q&A. Please mute your microphones, and as an aside, the meeting is being recorded. Today's training focus is on the planning you need to get your business set up. We're going to discuss some topics fairly generally this morning, but I'm also going to introduce you to some tools so you can do specific research yourself to get started in your own neighborhood. Thanks to the Small Business Administration and the California Office of the Small Business Advocate for the funding for allowing us to offer this informative program, and also special thanks to the Building Business Back program for specifically sponsoring these workshops to support local businesses that help us to help you to start, grow, and succeed. So today's agenda will be a little bit about, are you ready to even start a business? If you are, how to decide your legal structure, a little bit about licensing and permitting, that's important stuff. And to follow up and wrap it up, we'll talk a little bit about insurance, and we'll touch on human resources and some other employer requirements, because if you're going to open a business, you might need to know these things. Okay, what separates successful business owners from less successful business owners? Well, Gallup studied over 2,500 entrepreneurs to understand the actions and decisions that lead to venture creation and growth. Well, after years of research and hundreds of interviews, they identified 10 specific talents that drive business success. These are behaviors that were consistently observed in highly successful businesses. Now, don't be discouraged if you don't have all of these talents. Some of them might come to you naturally. Others might need to be cultivated. We'll touch real briefly on some of these qualities. Are you disciplined and hardworking? Are you a successful risk manager? Do you weigh the consequences of your decisions? Do you leverage your resources and technology? Do you think globally but act locally? Do you have strong organization, execution, and delegation skills? Are you resilient? Are you adaptable? Do you have passionate leadership? Do you motivate others? Do you understand the market, your customer, and your employee needs? Are you able to build a support network of partners and mentors? And finally, do you have evaluation and reassessment skills? If you don't have all of those, don't worry about it, but think about it as you move forward, because these are been considered qualities to determine readiness. Today's workshop objectives: to determine the federal, state, and local requirements for starting your business, for knowing the importance of zoning ordinances, securities registration, the business permits, and the occupational professional licenses needed, and the importance of insurance. The big takeaway here is that on that number 2, the importance of all those permits and the red tape, every jurisdiction is different. There is no one-size-fits-all answer to these items. So let's dive in and talk about structure. Businesses can be an extension of a person, which is called a sole proprietorship, or particularly if there's some more people involved, it can be a separate legal entity. Excuse me, it can be such a general or a limited partnership. It could be a corporation or a limited liability partnership. When you decide on the type of business entity, it's not something to take lightly, and you might want to consult with an attorney or an accountant. And the reason for that is the business structure will affect how much you end up paying in taxes, your ability to raise money, the paperwork you need to file, and this is important, your personal liability. You'll need to choose a business structure before you register your business with the state. And most businesses will also need to get a tax ID number and to file for the appropriate licenses and permits. Now, you might convert to a different business structure in the future, but there might be some restrictions based on your location. And it could also result in tax consequences and unintended dissolution, among some other complications. So it's better to consult with your business counselors, attorneys, or consultants before you dive in. So that's helpful, so you don't have to undo any of this stuff later, or at least the chances would be lessened. So here's a really quick overview of each type of business. A sole proprietorship is the most common and the easiest form of business organization. Basically, it's an unincorporated business and it's owned and operated by one person. There's no partners involved. So as a sole proprietor, you're entitled to all the profits, and you're also responsible for all your business's debts, losses, and liabilities. Now, a general or limited partnership involves 2 or more people who agree to share in the profits or losses of a business. Now, the advantage to this is the partnership does not bear the tax burdens of profit or the benefits of the losses. They're passed through to partners to report on their individual tax returns. A primary disadvantage to this is the liability, because each partner is personally liable for the business. and they're personally liable for the financial obligations. Now, a corporation, it's a legal entity that's created to conduct business. The corporation becomes an entity separate from those who founded it. And that handles the responsibilities of the organization. Now, like a person, the corporation is taxed and it can be held legally responsible for its actions. The corporation can make a profit. The benefit of the corporate status is the avoidance of personal liability. The primary disadvantage is the cost to form the corporation, and there's extensive record keeping that's required involved in a corporation. Now, a limited liability company is a hybrid form of that partnership, and it's gaining in popularity because it allows owners to take advantage of some of the corporation and the partnership forms of business. The advantages are that profits and losses can be passed through to owners without taxation of the business itself, and the owners are shielded from personal liability. Now, there's several key factors that you want to keep in mind when you set up your business. Some of these will be fairly simple for you to decide, depending on what it is that you want to do, but others might require some thought or research. Taxation, that's a big one. The taxes on profits are paid through personal tax returns on most of these, except for corporations. The liability and risk, that's important. Responsibility for harm to another person or property, or even contract disputes. It's, do you want to take it on personally, or do you want to have it be the company's responsibility? Who's the decision maker? What's the management of your company? That's important to consider. Continuity and transferability. How are you going to move forward? And how is it going to be sold eventually when you want to, either you want to get out of the business or you want to sell your business? And expense and formality. The costs, the legal responsibility. I mean, how complex do you want to make this? It's all things for you to consider. Once again, a sole proprietorship is one and the same as the owner. You are your business. It's owned and run by one individual. There's no legal distinction between the owner and the business. A sole proprietorship has passed through taxation. The business itself will not file a tax return, but the income or losses pass through and it's reported on the owner's personal tax return. Sole proprietors also often need to make quarterly estimated tax payments. The liability and risk. The owner or a sole proprietorship has unlimited personal liability for any liabilities incurred by the business. Now, you can manage some of this risk with insurance and make sure your contracts are really written well and they're sound contracts. Control of a sole proprietorship, of course, belongs to the owner, but you're also taking the full risk of the business. As far as continuity or transferability, that sole proprietorship lasts as long as the owner is alive and operating the business, or until the business is sold. The owner can sell the business assets as well as transfer the business to a family member, and that's done generally through the estate planning process. Expenses and formality. Well, the sole proprietorship is the simplest way of doing business. The costs to create a sole proprietorship are very low, and very little formality is really required in this. It might be a very appropriate form of business for many small and startup business ventures. Moving on to a general partnership. Now, that's an association between two or more people who are in business and they want to seek a profit. Somewhat like a sole proprietorship, partnerships have passed through taxation, and the owners are personally responsible for the debts of the business. General partnerships can be created with very little formality, but because more than one person is involved, it's a good idea to have a written contract stipulating the terms of the partnership, and that's called a partnership agreement. Now, if you're a fan of the Big Bang Theory, Sheldon was always referring to and updating his roommate agreement. He had a lot of rules and regulations, and that's pretty funny on a sitcom. But when you're dealing with real life and serious business agreements, even with, and especially sometimes with your friends, if they're business partners too, these agreements can be really important in the long run. You want to keep your friends. So you want to make sure all your agreements are in writing. Limited partnerships, and also called LPs, and limited liability partnerships, called LLPs sometimes, are two other organizational options for two or more people who plan to maintain a business for profit. Now, some jurisdictions only allow those who are licensed to practice in certain professions, like law or accounting, to be eligible for that LLP structure. So you might want to consult an attorney or an accountant for that sort of thing. Finally, a corporation. It sounds big, and it kind of is. It's a legal entity that's separate and independent from the people who own or run the corporation. You're detaching yourself from the business. This means the corporation itself, and not the shareholders that own it, are held legally liable for the actions and debts incurred by the business. As a corporation, it has privileges such as the ability to enter into contracts, but it also has some certain responsibilities, such as the payment of taxes. Once again, it's really important to check with a financial professional or an attorney as to how these tax details will impact your business. And realistically, most startup businesses do not need to incorporate. They're not necessarily at the level where they would need to be separated from the individual. Writing a business plan is probably your first best step in determining your business's organizational structure. And hopefully you were here for last week's webinar where we talked about that. Your business plan will describe some factors, including the market, the sales volume you anticipate, your management structure, the location of your business, some strategies you have moving forward, and how your business is going to be financed. Now, in addition, there's some other questions you should answer before you decide on the structure for your business. Who's going to own the business? It's very important. Who else is involved with the business? Is it a partnership? And who's going to manage the business? If there's more than one person involved, you need to decide what roles everyone will be playing. Does your product or service carry a significant liability risk? Yeah, are you really in danger of being sued by people because of anything? A faulty product, some sort of a liability where you could have litigation against you. Does your business require a lot of financing? Is your product or service very expensive to produce? Are you going to have outside investors? And what sort of sales volume do you anticipate? Do you anticipate a big sales growth potential? It's very important to discuss this with your attorney or your tax preparer, or small business consultant. Research through the Small Business Administration and the IRS websites as well. There's a lot of ways that you can get the information to kind of help you move forward, because your business will be unique. So you need to do as much homework as you can that's pertinent to your particular business. Now, different business entities require different types of filing that official legal structure. If you're a sole proprietorship or a partnership, you'll usually have to file a fictitious name filing with the local county recorder, unless, of course, you're using your personal name as part of your business name. Most counties will allow you to just walk in, verify that name isn't taken by another business, file that paperwork all at once. You can take care of it all in the same day. After the filing, they'll give you some information that you must publish in a local newspaper. And they're going to want the proof of publication. And it sounds pretty daunting, but don't worry. Newspapers do this all the time. They'll know exactly what you're talking about, and they'll know how to provide that proof of publication to submit to the county and for you to keep in your files, because that's very important. Now, if you're a corporation or an LLC, paperwork must be filed with the Secretary of State where the business is formed. This process is a little longer. It's going to take several weeks to complete. And a lot of states allow you to search online to see if that name that you've chosen is already in use. Corporations and LLCs are a little more complicated to get started. So you might want to make sure that you do seek help from a legal service or an attorney to form that business entity and file your paperwork correctly, because you want to do this right the first time. Separately, most business must obtain a business license from the city where your business is operating. Now, this is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Again, each city or county has its own requirements, and you will have to check to see what requirements are in your business city. Now, if your small business does not have the proper business license, it's not compliant. And it could be penalized. You could get a fine. You could have a cease work order for a period of time. So to avoid penalties, delays, and unnecessary fees for non-compliance, make sure you obtain the proper business licensing before you actually do business in the location where you want to do business. And some businesses also require you to have a special permit to operate. For example, if you have an auto body repair shop and you have a painting service, you might need to have a special permit to operate that paint booth. So be sure to check with your local city or county for any special requirements. Permits generally need to be reviewed yearly. And remember, the fiscal year for the cities and counties usually starts July 1st, not January 1st. So anticipate this as your reset date every year. So let's talk permits and licenses now. Now there's a website that can actually help you in finding appropriate permit information for your business. It also provides contact information for the various agencies that administer and issue these permits. Now, it's like any other website. Is it always up to date? Maybe, maybe not. It's kind of like a pirate's treasure map. It'll get you into the vicinity, and then you kind of do some checking around till you find X marks that spot. But in addition to this site, you can also check to see if your local agency has information posted online for their jurisdiction. Once again, that may not be totally up to date, but it gets you started along the path. Each type of business and each jurisdiction is going to have a varying process. It's not one size fits all. But CalGold is one of these websites where you can go and search for your type of business and the location you plan to operate in California. And if you plan to operate in multiple locations, run this report for all of those locations, because you may need a different business license for each location. If you're not sure about the professional licenses you'll need, choose your favorite search engine, take a look, and contact the industry professional associations to see what kind of information and support they have for your location. Do the homework, do it ahead of time. You don't want to have a non-compliance issue. But right now, we're going to take a little test drive on CalGold, see how it works. Here we are, we're at CalGold, and this is run by the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, GoBiz. We mentioned them earlier because they're one of our sponsors for the SBDC network. And they've got a lot of different things on here. It has an assistance to find appropriate permit information for your business and contact information for the various agencies. Now, since we're in Monterey County right now, we're going to check Monterey County. And since we're probably in Salinas, we'll try that. And let's see, a business type. Let's see what we have here. Let's try an electrical contractor and see what it says. Here are some business permits and other requirements in the city of Salinas in Monterey County for business type of electrical contractor. Now, if you are going to be doing any kind of building or construction permits, the City of Salinas Building Department, there's a phone number, there's a fax number, there's their website. You can check it out. Business license, tax certificate, required for all entities doing business within city limits. The City of Salinas Finance Department. There's some contact information for them and their website. Fire information. You might need to have a fire inspection if you have a location. City of Salinas Fire Department, phone, fax, website. There you go. Land use permit, zoning clearance. If you need to have some sort of a change in the zoning to operate where you want to be, the City of Salinas Planning Department, phone, fax, website. Special permits. Well, did you know that the city police department issues special permits and licenses for, there's a lot of things here, burglar alarms, adult businesses, peddlers, secondhand dealers, pawnbrokers, solicitors. Requirements vary. If you have a question, contact the police department permit division. There's a phone number and a website for this. Business property statement. Businesses are required to report all equipment, fixtures, supplies, leasehold improvements that are for business use. These statements are due January 1st. This is not the July 1st I mentioned earlier. This is the assessor's office for Monterey County. This is not the City of Salinas. Fictitious business name. This is where I had mentioned earlier where you would need to have the fictitious business name and advertised in the newspaper. The Office of the County Clerk and Monterey County. It's in downtown Salinas, but it's not a City of Salinas office. Okay, if you need to construct anything, you might need to contact the Air Quality Management District. That's over in Monterey, but if you see, it says here an authority to construct must be obtained before building or installing any new emissions unit or modifying anything that requires a permit. You might need to check with that. You might not need to check with that, but there's a phone number and their website in case you do. Are you using any pressurized tanks or steam boilers? Or propane tanks that are stationary? Might happen. The Department of Industrial Relations. There's the phone, fax, website. Are you doing any asbestos related work? There's the Department of Consumer Affairs. Asbestos registration. You might need to find out more about that. That's in San Francisco, but you have a phone, fax, and a website to ask about that. If you're doing any trenching or demolishing buildings or erecting scaffolding, are you needing to do that to open your business? Maybe not, but you might be doing it in the course of what you're doing in your business. So you would need to contact the Department of Industrial Relations if that's going on there. Do you need a contractor's license? You may very well need that, especially if the cost of a project is $500 or more. Contact the Department of Consumer Affairs. There's a phone number and their website. If you're considering becoming a corporation and you're not going to use your own name, you'll need to contact the Secretary of State's office. There's their phone number, there's their website. Discrimination. If you're doing anything that involves fair employment, housing, remember, harassment or discrimination in employment is prohibited if it's based on a number of things. There's a phone number, a website. Be sure to check that out. and you don't want to be in violation of that. Electrical contractor would need an electrician certification. Here's the Department of Industrial Relations. They can help you make sure that you are compliant with that. Occupational safety and health information, that's important. Businesses with employees must prepare an injury and illness prevention plan. The state provides a no-fee consultation service. No fee is always good. Check that out. Assist employers with preventing unsafe working conditions and workplace hazards. This is an important number, the Department of Industrial Relations. A registration form for employers. If you're paying more than $100 in wages to one or more employees, EDD wants to know about that. So make sure that you've contacted them, the Employment Development Department. There's a phone number, there's a website, there's also office locations. I believe there's one more local than Rancho Cordova, but that's the one. That's another one of those. It may not be the exact location, but this website is a good jumping off spot. The seller's permit. If you're selling or leasing tangible property, you must have a seller's permit. And there might be some information about the resale certificate. They've got a website about that. The Department of Tax and Fee Administration. This keeps going. The state EPA identification number. If you're generating hazardous waste, an electrician may not, but maybe they are. If so, the Department of Toxic Services Control in Sacramento, they want to know about it. Get yourself an EPA identification number if you're going to be doing this. If you're not, then you don't have to. State income tax information. Make sure that you have the appropriate state income tax form from the State Franchise Tax Board. There's the number in Sacramento. There's the website. All businesses are required to submit a tax statement. Wage and hour laws. If you have employees, make sure you have the proper wage, hours, and working conditions. The Department of Industrial Relations will definitely help you out there. Workers' compensation information. If you have employees, you must obtain workers' compensation insurance. There's the Department of Industrial Relations. And it's a different number than the one that we just mentioned here. So it's important to just check and see if that's, an important thing for you. An employer identification number. If you are either using an EIN or an SSN, employers with employees, business partnerships or corporations must have an employer identification number. The IRS likes that. So you can obtain the proper federal income tax forms. That's the U.S. Department of Treasury. And employees hired after November 6, 1986 must provide proof of eligibility to work in the United States. If this is important for anyone that you're hiring, make sure that all U.S. employers must complete and retain an I-9 for each individual they hire in the United States. This includes citizens and non-citizens. The U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service can help you out there. There's their website, there's their phone number. You might not need all of these, but at least they have something that you can go back to. Once again, this is calgold.ca.gov is this website. And just so that you know, I'm going to take electrical contractor off and I'm going to put a different one in here just so you can see that there are different. Let's say you are going to operate a restaurant. You're going to have some of the same things, but then there'll be things in here like the health permit. If you're preparing or selling food, you must have building plans and equipment approved and pass a facility inspection before you start business. And that's one of the reasons that I brought this one up, because if you're actually preparing food, There's different requirements for that. Just make sure that you're, in coordination with the health department. You do not want to get shut down before you really get started. Alcoholic beverage license. If you're seeking to sell alcoholic beverages, you must be licensed. Those sort of things. It's all dependent on what it is that your business is looking to do. So remember, one size does not fit all, but calgold.ca.gov can definitely help you out as a jumping off spot to take a look to see what you might need. Okay, we'll move on. Now that I've overwhelmed you with information on that last one, we do know that you want everything to move forward smoothly. And since you'll be running a business, there's also protection that you need to check out. There is an insurance guide available through the California Department of Insurance, and it's at the address on the screen. So please take a screenshot of it. But the report to remember is www.insurance.ca.gov. And the other part, you can find that when you start clicking around in there. It goes over definitions of commercial insurance, different types of policies, how to choose a broker, file a complaint. There's a lot of things that you can find out from the internet, obviously. The type of insurance you need depends on the type of business that you have. Now, it's the location, the risks are going to be different. And if your customers require certain types of insurance, that'll also influence what you need to have. So be clear on your business plan when you prepare it of the type of work that you want to do, where you're going to do it. And here's a tip is to just reach out to 3 local insurance brokers and get their opinion on what you need and how much it'll cost. The cost and type will compare on what they tell you. Everything is going to be different depending on what you want to do. And make sure that you don't overlook automotive insurance coverage for vehicles that you're using in connection with the business. That's very, very important. Now, it's also important to protect against liability to others. Business owners providing insurance or providing services should consider having professional liability insurance. That's known as errors and omissions insurance. This type of liability coverage will generally protect your business if it's sued for malpractice or errors or negligence if providing services to your customers. This will depend on your profession, and you also might be required by your state government to carry such policy. It depends on what you're going to be doing. The issuance of certain licenses and business certificates and registrations also might require you to carry work-specific insurance. Be sure to check with your insurance agent to see if you need to purchase a separate general liability policy to fully protect the business in the event of its claim that its employees did something or didn't do something that caused harm, injury, or a loss to someone else. Your liability insurance will obviously change. And for this reason, it's really important to stay informed of changes or contact your agent to verify that you have the minimum or greater coverage. Now, some industry licenses will require specific insurance. Some lenders may require insurance as collateral for a loan, a key person insurance. Excuse me. All of these things have a cost that you need to factor into your financial projections. Businesses with employees are required by law to pay for certain types of workers' compensation insurance, unemployment insurance, and depending on where the business is located, it could be disability insurance. Nearly every state has laws regarding workers' compensation insurance that protects employees against lost income resulting from work-related illnesses or injuries. These insurance laws address the amounts to be paid for rehabilitation, for training, or retraining, beneficiaries, medical payout limits. It could require coverages for businesses for one or more employees. But the commission or state insurance department websites will contain some contact information for that. And some states will allow businesses to purchase private insurance, but be sure to check with the insurance regulations for your particular business. And check with the state. State facilitated programs may provide plans for sole proprietorships. Unemployment insurance provides benefits to those become unemployed for no fault of their own. However, people getting unemployment insurance must be willing to and able to work and actively searching for employment. You can find out more on that from the state and from the U.S. Department of Labor. There are federal laws regulating unemployment insurance. State agencies administer the programs. So there's a federal tax amount that's a percentage of the income. Each state provides the calculations for the payroll based on the needs of the fund. So the percentage of income might be adjustable. So don't take the payment of the payroll tax lightly. Some employers fail to pay the required tax when your cash flow is a little tight. This can make you fall into trouble. Make sure that you're paying the proper taxes that you need to out of anything that comes out of people's paychecks. Penalties and interest can be high, and the repeated failure to pay the required taxes might result in a filing of a lien on your business. So you want to make sure you're paying this. Continued non-payment of some of this can also be considered a misdemeanor. So you really want to make sure that you are paying the taxes that need to be taken out of your employees. Property insurance. It may cover the contents of your building, but can you or your business survive until your business is back up and running if there's some sort of a problem? Loss of business income policies can replace some of the business income if the business operations are interrupted due to a covered loss. And there's certain other losses. Watch the policy, watch what it says. Some begin paying after 30 days, some after 60 days. Make sure you know what it is that is in your policy, because you don't want a surprise if you need to use your policy. Let's see. Lots of, also make sure that your policy, what it says in regards to flood or earthquake, your policy may or may not cover some of these things. Make sure that your insurance policy covers what you need it to cover. And be sure always to keep accurate and organized records of your income and expenses. You need to do that whether or not you need to use your policy. And finally, consider life, disability, and medical insurance coverage because that's important. Okay, your business expertise in whatever your product or service is. But you want to make sure that all your ducks are in a row for several other things because you want to overall have a successful business. If you're in the process of starting your business, the California Dream Fund is a one-time $35 million grant program to seed entrepreneurship and small business creation in the state of California. New entrepreneurs and small business owners will complete an intensive training program through selected participating centers of the Technical Assistance Expansion Program. It's called TAPE. Cal Coastal SBDC is a participating center. Following successful completion of that training and consulting program, qualified applicants of new businesses will be eligible to apply for a micro grant of up to $10,000 seed money. You can find out more about the California Dream Fund by watching an on-demand video about the program. Go to our website, calcoastalsbdc.com. Visit the webinar section to get that link. It's important to, sorry, I didn't mean to go forward right then. It's important to make sure that your ducks are in a row with bookkeeping, marketing, human resources, access to capital. These are all very, very important things. And your local small business development center can provide no-fee technical assistance for these and more. A little bit more about the small business development centers like Cal Coastal SBDC. We're always here for you. We are confidential, no cost, no obligation. We're part of 1,000 centers across the country. How that would work is that you can sign up on our website. You go to calcoastalsbdc.com. There's a little green button that says get started. We'll contact you to arrange an initial consultation. We'll discuss what services you need, and we do have expert consultants who can work one-on-one with you. We don't do it for you, but we can point you in a direction so that you can get your own answers to get your business started. Thank you so much for attending today. Thank you to our sponsors, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the California Office of Economic Business and Economic Development, the Building Business Back Program, the online attendees, the attendees in Salinas. And if you have questions, well, I just got rid of everything here. So let's stop sharing and we'll go back and see if there's any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sharon. That was a lot of great information. Like Sharon said, we'll jump into questions. Feel free to use the chat box to put in any questions that you guys might have. Let me reach out to the people here to see if they have any questions. ¿Tenían preguntas? Okay. Give me 1 second, Sharon. Let me see if I can translate it. And then just to double check, can you share for the people that want to go physically, your office is open, correct? For walk-ins or?
No, we are appointment only. Please go to calcoastalsbdc.com. Let me put that in the chat, actually. I'll put it to everyone. Yeah, calcoastalsbdc.com. There's a little green button that says get started, and you'll fill out a little form. Rosemary from our office will give you a call, and what they do is they little intake process. It's all no charge, we do not charge fees, and she'll pair you with a consultant who can actually talk about your individual needs.
Perfect. And then just to make sure, I know we covered it on the last workshop, but are your services bilingual? Is it just in English, or do they need to bring?
We do, Rosemary, who you'll talk to for intake, she is bilingual, so she's Spanish and English. And if you have a language other than that, we are part of the Central California SBDC network that covers 14 counties. I'm sure between somewhere in that network, we can locate an interpreter for you so that we can work with you.
Perfect. And then I do have a question from Joseph in the chat. Are realtors considered independent contractors and or small business owners?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know what your arrangement is, and I don't have an answer for that one. Sorry. We could check that out with the state. I'm not sure how that is set up.
No worries. No worries, Sharon. Like I did want to share this with everyone. If by chance we don't have an answer to your question, don't feel that that's it. We're not going to stand by. We'll go ahead and work with you later on, either after the workshop.
Exactly.
And
We don't necessarily have the answers right on the tip of our tongues here. So, but we can, there are ways to find out. I know that let me put in the chat as well.
Sorry, I lost everyone there.
No, I believe that is the website to Cal Gold. If that is not correct, because I'm not looking at the screen right now, I believe if you just do Cal Gold and a search, it will come up you can do your own search for the types of licenses that you need locally.
Gotcha. All right, then. Yeah, like as I was saying, I do want to thank Monterey County for funding this program. It's free to you because Monterey has dedicated some funding for bringing business back from the pandemic. If just to let you guys know as well, if you are interested in learning more about the services that we offer, feel free to visit our website at montereycountybusiness.com. Where you'll also find workshops, recordings of this one and previous one we've done. I also wanted to remind everyone as the last the last thing is that we have an upcoming workshop as well this Thursday, October 27th, which is the third workshop in the series of the business basics. If you want to go ahead and register, feel free to register at our website as well. Thank you so much for everyone coming, and we will see you next time, and have a great day.
Thank you.